This is the sound of my garden. So is this. My 0.001 acre of a garden is located in the city of Murals, the home of the Super Bowl 52 champions, and inhabited by 1.6 million people, making it the sixth largest city in America. We're talking, of course, about Philadelphia. Self-proclaimed as America's garden capital, the city has 30 public gardens within 30 miles. And don't get me wrong, they are beautiful. Longwood Gardens, Ambler Arboretum, the Philadelphia Zoo, they are all great places to visit when you need a dose of greenery. But what I'm interested in is the spaces between those gardens. The postage stamp backyards, the indoor jungles, the roof decks, and the stoops. All those little nooks and crannies in the concrete that people have lovingly turned into gardens. I'm Meredith Nutting, and this is Gritty and Green, a podcast about truly urban gardening. In each episode, we'll explore the connections between people and plants. We'll learn a little bit about the science and a lot about how to grow successful urban gardens. This episode, I'm joined by Helena van Vliet to talk about biophilic cities. So let's get growing. Living in a city that's mostly pavement and buildings, nature feels removed. You go out into nature, not just outside, but out of the city, or at least out of your neighborhood to a public green space. This separation of urban and wild spaces mirrors a society that separates humans from nature. And that's a problem, because it's not a big leap to go from humans are separate from nature to humans are against nature. We have our spaces and nature has its. Cities are for people and nature belongs out there, away from our homes, schools, roads, workplaces. It's to be kept in designated places and visited when we feel like it. But what if we welcomed back nature into our cities?
I'm Helena van Vliet. I'm an architect by training. I'm originally from Germany. I've been here for a very long time. And I'm the president of BioPhilly, which we founded in 2015, I think.
Helena has a master's in architecture from the University of Pennsylvania, where she currently teaches, as well as Jefferson University. She is also a biophilic architect and design consultant.
Biophilia is a term that goes back to the psychologist Erich Fromm. He was German, maybe in the 50s or 60s, around that time. And it has two components, bio and philia, right? Philia is one of the Greek words for love. The Greeks had many different words for love, I think 4 or 5. And philia is the one that relates to a loving kinship. It's a friendship, kinship situation. And then bio, of course, is nature. So biophilia refers to our kinship relationship with nature and our friendship kinship. So that means it involves reciprocity like any friendship. It's a give and take. It's not just a take.
Erich Fromm coined the term in his 1973 book, The Anatomy of Human Destructiveness. He defined it as the passionate love of life and all that is alive. And then the term was popularized in the 1980s with American biologist and naturalist E.O. Wilson in his book, Biophilia.
And he said, look, here's the research. We have this innate affinity to other biological organisms, such as birds and butterflies and so forth, because their presence in our lives supports our own survival and flourishing. There's a direct connection. For instance, we know that the presence of birdsong in a neighborhood is also a public health benefit because it lowers our heart rate, it lowers our blood pressure, because we know, meaning our body, knows that when the birds are singing, things are probably okay. When the birds stop singing, there is a problem somewhere, So this all happens under the hood, under the hood of our consciousness a lot of times, but it affects our physiology very profoundly.
This concept has spurred a movement of connecting advocates and organizations like BioPhilly, all in the hopes of creating biophilic cities through architecture, planning, design, and policy.
I'm a steering committee member of BioPhilic Cities International, which was started in 2012 by Tim Beatley at the University of Virginia. And we have about 30 cities in our network now internationally. It's about the connection between nature in cities, and public health. There's a lot of research on the fact that children who grow up in urban environments where nature is not present on a daily basis have a compromised microbiome, gut microbiome from day one of their lives. So, in my opinion, this is the ultimate inequity situation, so your immune system is compromised from day one of your life.
There have been lots of studies examining the connection between human health and nature. They found links between nature and improved cognitive function, improved creativity and problem-solving abilities, decreased blood pressure, improved mental health, reduced cortisol levels and muscle tension, lower heart rate, lower heart disease, better sleep, lower risks of depression, improved concentration, reduced mental disorders, decreased risk of chronic diseases, and the list goes on. But biophilic cities aren't just good for our minds and bodies, they're good for the planet.
The other problem is that, courtesy of climate emergency, we're facing extreme heat conditions, especially and most dire in cities. And cities like Philadelphia that are full of brick and concrete, those are heat-absorbing materials that store the heat and then give it off at night. So night cooling is no longer happening in the hot summer months, which are extending. And so that then makes people turn on their air conditioning, which generates more heat because every time you turn that on, you're blasting hot air out into the city. So, it's this vicious cycle.
This phenomenon is called a heat island. Compared to temperatures in suburban or rural environments where there are more green spaces, daytime temperatures in the city can be up to 7 degrees higher, and nighttime temperatures can be up to 5 degrees higher. And you can see this phenomenon on a micro scale when it snows. Oftentimes, gardens, parks, or even tree pits are covered in snow, while even unsalted sidewalks holding the sun's heat are not. Census data shows that when you look at different neighborhoods in a city, this heat island effect is even higher in lower income neighborhoods, and it disproportionately affects Black and brown communities. So the effects of redlining from the 1930s are still harming communities today. Unsurprisingly, many of the strategies used to mitigate the heat island effect include, you guessed it, biophilic practices.
We have organisms out there that can cool cities naturally, and they're called plants and trees, and they also absorb carbon, and they, absorb dust, and they absorb noise and all this sort of things. They also moisturize the air with negative air ions, which we know reduces viral spread, reduces depression and anxiety. So there's so many health benefits to including nature in cities. The list is very, very long. And I think most people are not quite aware, but once they become aware of these connections, I have never met a person who was not in favor of supporting public health in that way. The ultimate goal would be to completely vegetate the city. So that means that every available horizontal surface on the ground and on rooftops as well would be completely vegetated with native plants that generate food for somebody, people, and also, of course, pollinators and native birds. And then, in my opinion, we can't really solve the problems that we face in cities in terms of extreme heat, noise pollution, air pollution, without also vegetating the facades of buildings. And there are a lot of systems that are available to do that so that we can change the air quality in some of these urban canyons, which are quite narrow relative to the height of the buildings, and air flow is not happening there. It's stagnant air, so the pollution stays there. And we need to mitigate all that, and we don't have enough surface on the ground to do that with plants. So we need to use rooftops, we need to use the vertical surfaces. And there are a lot of buildings like that already that have been built, and they're always incredibly popular.
In Philadelphia, you can see an example of how green roofs can be used. In fact, not only can you see it, but you can grab a beer and enjoy live music on it. Sierra Gardens is a 30,000 square foot green space sitting 11 stories up on top of a parking garage. It has a blue-green roof design that both waters the landscaping and treats excess water before releasing it into the sewer systems. But water management isn't the only benefit of projects like these.
And what they also do, these kind of buildings, is they generate community among residents, because you're now having that, up front and close in front of your window and on your balcony experience of birds and butterflies. And it alleviates a sense of loneliness and isolation, which is what a lot of populations experience. So we have these innate affinities, and we've overvalued this kind of misguided notion of efficiency, like how many thousands of people can I stuff into a concrete box, when we now know that if these people are all depressed and anxious, well, this is clearly not an efficient place. This is not an efficient office building where nobody wants to come to work or isn't productive or, loves their job. They're not going to be very creative and productive people.
We know that more nature in our cities is good for us, and we know that we can design better in the future. But what about the city that already exists?
I think what we're looking for in an urban environment is not have these isolated islands of nature, but to create a contiguous network, so everybody's yard sort of all add up together. And the research indicates that it's quality over quantity in terms of nature in cities. So really making an effort, even in small spaces, to plant native things, to plant for food for not just humans, but, birds, and therefore for pollinators, and just bring back that whole food chain, and create these little urban oases, these biodiverse oases that can be quite small, but very, very vibrant in that way.
Pennsylvania is home to 437 bee species, 156 different types of butterfly, and over 300 different species of birds. And that doesn't include all those birds passing through on migration up and down the Atlantic Flyway. One of the best things that we can do to support these birds and insects is to grow native plants. It provides food for the adults and their young, as well as places to nest and hibernate. And it doesn't take huge areas.
It's wonderful to have these large parks, and they're very important, but we could do a lot more than that. If everyone turns their yard into this little mini habitat space, and we add them all together, we really have a lot of square footage, a lot of acreage, after a while. We have all these data and science that prove to us what we already know to be true, that this is good for us. This is our birthright. It's like we have separation anxiety from nature, because it's our own animal nature that we are split off from in many ways. We kind of marched along with this idea that the mind was more important than the body, which is not real. Cognitive neuroscience has informed us that this is completely false. What we know to be true anyway is actually our mind exists or operates courtesy of our bodies. So there's a connection between our distancing from nature and this separation anxiety. Reconnecting with nature means reconnecting with our own nature, and that brings us back home, if you will.
That was Helena van Vliet with BioPhilly. If you want to learn more about BioPhilly's work in the city, they have an annual conference coming up in May. You can find out more information on their website, biophilly.org. I hope you found some purpose and inspiration about why creating green spaces in our city is not only good for you and the environment, but for your neighbors. The plants you grow are at least partially responsible for improving the health of folks passing by, and you should feel proud of that. Public gardening is truly a service to your community, and I want to help. So, on this season of Gritty and Green, we'll be diving into how to start your garden from seeds, why we need street trees, how an organization is saving community gardens, the therapy of keeping bees, the importance of compost, and also answering listener questions from you. Now, let's do something for our health and well-being. Hop outside and listen to the birds singing. Or, if you can't do that, close your eyes. I've got you covered. Gritty and Green was produced by Cool Goon Productions. It was written and directed by me, Meredith Nutting. Theme music by Kazuya.